Hey, what's up? This is your girl Diamond. I am doing a video response to my girl Meghanslife. I'll put her channel link in the box. I think it's over there. And she brought up, one of her subscribers asked her a question that was so relevant and important. He basically asked her to describe the marginalization in the transgender experience, you know, with like race and stuff like that. Which I think is him asking the question is a perfect example of how I'm marginalized. Because you see, she gets all the cutesy, good, wholesome questions because she's sweet and white and la la la. I get all the hardcore hip hop, how big is your cock questions because, you know, I'm ghetto and, you know, angry black woman. So now I'm just playing. But that was a good question. I think his name is Trey. That was a good question, Trey. As far as the differences, there's obvious differences. You know what I'm saying? You know, some people may not experience them, but you have to know that they exist. She did an analogy of like the hierarchy where, let's use like strikes, where she said that, you know, like if you're a white male, you don't have any strikes against you in the social hierarchy. If you are a black male, you have one strike against you, that's your race. If you are a black female, you got two strikes because you have your gender, you have your race against, you know, the social norm or whatever. So that was a good analogy. A thing that I also want to point out is that as a white male that's transitioning to a white females are historically taken care of by white men and coveted by black men. If you are a black male that's transitioning to a black females are historically exploited by white men and abandoned by black men. So, you know, just in that whole, if you think about that, it makes the transition much, much harder, I think. Now, I'm not trying to undermine the white transition, but I think it's much, much harder to transition to a black woman than it is to a white woman. For example, like she said, like she was doing the hierarchy, if you're a black trans, you know how many strikes that is? That's your gender, that's your race, that's your sexual orientation, and your sexual identity. That's a lot of stuff that's going on against you, against the norm of that. And I have a friend who has CDLs, which is commercial driving license. I think that's what it stands for. And she's been driving the bus for years, like city bus, and she's a trans. She went and applied for a job, and one of the people, and one thing that she noticed is, you know, usually when we go to the job, we're worried about if they're going to clock our T, if they're going to clock that we're trans, blah, 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 all of that. But, you know, she was worried about that, so she kind of, you know, well, she's passable, so she wasn't too worried about it. But, you know, that's always in the back of your mind when you're trans. She went in, and all the black people that were there for the, now, mind you, out of all the people, she had the most experience and the best driving record or whatever. Out of all the people, the lady who was hiring was Latina. And every one of the Latina applicants got to go to the next level, and all the black ones did not. Now, some people can say, well, you know, you can make an excuse about why that was. You never know. But to me, if all the black ones does not get hired, especially when you have one like my friend who has the most driving experience out of everybody, why wouldn't you hire her? You feel what I'm saying? Now, I know her. I've seen her go to interviews. She is on her game. So therefore, it couldn't have been anything like that. So it's like, oh, you feel what I'm saying? That's an example of how, you know, it's not just trans that you have to worry about when it comes to discrimination, when it comes to housing, when it comes to profiling and stereotyping. You have to worry about a lot of stuff being, you know, on that low totem pole of that social hierarchy that Megan discussed. Another thing is, let's say the drag community. In my city, there was a club that would not hire a lot of the drag entertainers. They're doing it now because their popularity is going down due to some political stuff. But before, they would only have one black girl. And if the other girls would try to come and, you know, say, well, you know, can I get a booking? Well, we already have our token black girl. You know what I'm saying? Why do you need just one? You know what I'm saying? This kind of reminds me of the modeling industry. Oh, we got one black girl on our runway show. We don't need another one. You know, if she's good at what she do, why not hire her? Who cares about race? It's just a lot of little things like that. Oh, another example is that when I was growing up, you know, all the good teas, like the good news and good benefits and good stuff like that, the black people wouldn't get that information until weeks or months after the white people already got the information. And that could be because a lot of black girls don't participate in, you know, activism as they should. You know, so I don't put it on responsibility. I don't put the responsibility on, you know, just one-sided, like white people just, no, I'm not saying that. But there is a lot of small differences. For example, when I was in high school, I sued my high school to go to, that's my boyfriend blowing up my phone. Okay, so I sued my high school to go to the prom as a girl because they was trying to stop me. And it got all over the news. It got really big and crazy like that. And all of a sudden, all these white organizations were coming at me, sending me emails, sending me, calling my phone. I don't know how they got my number, but they were calling my phone and asking me to come to support meetings. And they're so proud of me. And they just started to, when I never had heard of these programs before, when I feel like they said, oh, we go to this club, which was the white club. We go to this club. Oh, we don't go to that club. Da, 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 da. And all of this stuff. They never reached out to me before until now that I'm some kind of martyr and for the cause. But it just seems like it was like a bittersweetness to the situation because I won and I won the case. But when I would go to, I went to one of the meetings, one of the switchboard meetings, and it was a total different experience. It just seems like the white girls are exposed to more stuff than the black girls. They're exposed to more, look at the ratio of black sex workers and white sex workers. You know what I'm saying? It's a lot of marginalization that's going on. You know what I'm saying? It's a lot of, that is like obvious. You know what I'm saying? Whose fault it is, I have no idea. But I feel like it takes people like Megan, me, you watching this to change that. It takes us to break that box and expand our horizon. I think us in the LGBT community, we are hypersensitive to seeing bigotry and hypocrisy. We can see when somebody is being a hypocrite because we know how it feels. Like Megan said, she knows how it feels to be marginalized by being a trans. Even though she was raised as a white male, she can understand and relate. And I feel like since we're in the LGBT community, we are hypersensitive to bigotry and hypocrisy because we can see it. Now, everybody don't always. Some people hold on to that youth background. If they grew up in a racist white family, they grow up, even if they're trans or lesbian or whatever, they might grow up and still be racist. You know what I'm saying? You know, and they might not want to let that part of them go. But I think it's time for us to let that go because we only, as a community, we can't separate each other in between our community because we got too much to strive for. The movement is too big for us to let race and stuff like that really separate us because that allows a rift between us when we need to come together because we need all the numbers that we can get to change the world, to change the social constructs that we are up against. So I think that's what we have to go through. I think that's my opinion on marginalization. Tell me what you think. Go watch Meghanslife video and tell me what you think about what I said and what she said, and we can go from there. Bye bye.